Alright guys, welcome to AppSheet and more. First and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to thank every one of you who has helped me reach this milestone of 1,000 subscribers. It's been a very exciting journey and I never thought I was going to get here this quickly. So I just want to say thank you very much to each and every one of you. And I also want to thank you with this video, which is a very nice AppSheet trick I think you're going to love. So I'm going to show you how you can include tables in your entry forms so that it can allow you to do multiple entries as a go. So if you're excited, let's see how this can be done in AppSheet. This particular demonstration, we're going to be using an app that tracks drivers and vehicles that are being used for a project. So I have my drivers view that has all my drivers. I have my vehicles over here as well. And this is the most important one. We want to track vehicles against drivers, okay? In this particular demonstration, we're going to do it in a tablet view, okay? So for the tablet view, it makes it easy for you to kind of appreciate the kind of visual we're trying to create. And it works better in tablet and desktop view than in a mobile view. So, okay, once you click on the add button over here, you have this nice form that gives you a table for you to fill out multiple entries. So over here, you can input the dates. That's the start date that applies to all the entries. So I'm going to put 15th over here. I'm going to say this project belongs to project B. How many vehicles does project B need? Let's say we need like 5 vehicles. Okay. And then all you need to do is to click this enable edits button that allows you to enable editing. Now you notice that these sides are grayed out because they're going to pick their entries from the inputs that have been made in the general control. So all you need to do is just select the various drivers. So I'm just going to select these drivers randomly, Samuel, and then Priya over here like this. And then you notice they all pick up these particular projects. If I add more, I can add 2 more and I can change the project to maybe project A. I can change the date for project A to maybe 17th. And then for those ones, they will have different entry dates, right? So you see these ones have different entry dates. Okay, now select the vehicles as well quickly. Okay, so this allows you to do very quick multiple entries at a go. Last one, let's say this one. And I'll put in full quantity, just randomly put in some quantities over here, and then I'll put this, let's say 9, and then let's select some dates over here. If the return date is supposed to be fixed for all of them, then you could actually put the return date over here as a field and then just pick it up one entry for all of them. Okay, so once it's all done, all you need to do to save all these entries you just made is just click save, right? And then all these 7 entries are just going to sync in. So I'm just going to click the sync button and then all these entries are going to sync. It's going to take a while because I'm entering 7 entries, but then once it's done, everything is good. Okay, so 7th entry is now syncing in. Let's go. Great. And once it syncs in, you see where everything is cleared and it resets the page to the first page, right? And then you have all your entries in here nicely. So yeah, that is how it works. And let's see how you can do this in AppSheet. Let's get started. So currently I have a simple app, which is going to be a case study. In this app, we have 2 tables. We have drivers, which are basically those who are going to be using the vehicles for this vehicle app. And then we have the vehicles table that has every information about the various vehicles in the database. So we have bikes over here, we have cars, 7 cars, and we have trucks over here. And then we have our drivers over here. So the goal is we want to create a tracking table where we want to see, okay, when was a vehicle given to a particular driver and for which project, and then when is the return date, how much, what was the quantity of fuel probably that the driver had as at the start of that particular project, and when are we expecting him to sort of return it. So we're going to create a table that has basically the fields we need, and then we'll see how we can design something like a tabular form that allows us to make multiple entries at a go and save, and everything gets synced into the table of our choice. So I'm going to come here to vehicles, and then I'm going to create my table. So over here, our vehicle tracking table is going to be is going to obviously have an ID. So ID, that's number one. We have ID, and the second thing we're going to do is going to have dates, maybe like start date. We're going to have projects. Okay, we're also going to have name of driver. Then we'll have vehicle. Okay, you can have other things as well. I'm going to add maybe the fuel quantity as a start date, right? And then we'll have return date of the vehicle. So return date, and then we'll have be recorded by and recorded on. Okay, so these two things are going to be tracked. They're going to be tracked automatically. The user doesn't need to enter them, right? So recorded by and recorded, that's it now. I mean recorded on. Okay, so it's going to look like something like this, right? So let's bring this into our app, right? So to bring this quickly, I'm going to refresh this. Click on the plus or add button. Okay, so you add vehicle tracking table and click add. Good. Now to be able to add to this table, right, because of the kind of form we want to create, let me just show this one more time. Yeah, so this is what we want to create. We want to create, once we click the plus button to add, we get a view like this. That gives us a control where we can set the start dates of the entry we are making, maybe the project we are giving out the vehicle for, right, the number of vehicles we are giving out for that project, right, and then you can make entries into these rules once you click the edit button, right? So you can just select whatever driver you want, and then that works. Okay, so that's the exact same thing we want to do over here. So we're going to create two extra tables that will help us do this. Okay, so each view you see here is a table. So this is a table, this is another table, and together they come on to create this kind of amazing view we see over here. So I'm going to come back here. Okay, I'm going to click on the plus. I'm going to call this general control. All right, general control, and I'm going to create another one that's going to be called the entry table. Now it basically works like this. The general control is going to hold fields that run through all of them. Okay, so if a field runs through all the entries are going to be making in that particular table, you want to put this under the general control, right? So you make the entry once over there, and then a formula automatically picks it up into the entry table, right? And the entry tables are going to have fields that are unique to each record. So what I mean is this. So let's come here and let's look at this. So over here, the start date of all the entries are going to be the same for this particular project. So I'm going to enter the same start date. They're all picking up the vehicles on the same start date. And then the project they're using it for is the same. If it's different, it can also be done as such. So I'm going to pick these two. These are the two main things. So copy, come here. I'm going to paste this here, Control V. So the date and the project you're using it for. Good. Now I'm also going to give this an ID. And then something also very important you saw over here, number of vehicles, which is basically the number of rules or entries you want to make. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to call this number of entries. Okay, so number of entries. So we have these 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Now I'm going to put I can place anything over here. Okay, so we're just going to place one ID over here. It can be anything. You can just type anything over here, right, just to help me see this record when I go back into the table. Okay, good. Now the next one is the entry table. The entry table is going to have every other column that's going to be here. So let me just copy this, come here, I'm going to paste this here like this. So ID, date, project, driver name, vehicle, quantity, return date, recorded by, and recorded on. These two, we don't need them. I'm going to take them off. But these two, even though they are in the general control, I'm going to put them here. I'm first going to use a formula to bring it here and then move it to this sheet. Okay, good. So we have something like this. So ID, date, project, driver name, driver vehicle, fuel quantity, return date. Good. Now, another important thing is that this particular table is supposed to be a ref to this, right? It makes it easy to pull in the formulas. So I'm going to create, aside this ID, I'm going to create another column. I'm going to say general control ID. Okay, so whatever I place over here, I'm going to copy this, and this is going to come here. Right, good. Now, another thing we're going to do is we're going to predefine how many columns or how many rows can be called in here from the general control. Okay, so over here, you see I have number of entries. So if I set 5 or 7, I want to be able to enter or want to be able to have access to the first 7 columns. Right, good. The way we do it is, or the way I do it is I place the ID as numbers. So something like this. And I can set it to as many as I want. So I'm going to set it for 20 for now. A maximum of 20 entries at a go. You can do it as many as you want. And then this is going to be the same for all of them. Like this. Now, just to just to point out a caveat over here. In this current design, an entry can be only made by one person at a time, right? 2 people cannot make an entry at the exact same time, right? You have an issue. But then there's a way to go about it, which I'll show you in my next video, how you can redesign this so that whenever someone enters the app to make an entry, they'll have their allotted slots to make their entry and it will not mix up with another user. All right, so let's go back to this. So let's get back. So first, let's refresh this. Let's click on the plus. Okay, so we have general input, we have vehicle status, we have entry table. I don't think these are the columns which we use. We have general control and entry table. I hope I'm in the right application. Yes, I think so. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select any of them, then come here and change it, right? So I'm going to select general control, which is what I want. I'm going to add. I have to do this for another table, which is the entry table, which is over here. So I'm going to click entry table, right? And I'm going to click add. Good. Now I need to quickly set up the data types. Okay, so I need to set up the data types. I'll go here to general control. This is going to be an enum. So you probably have an enum list of all your projects. So I'm just going to name this project A, B, C, D, sort of. Project A, project B, project C, project D. Another way to do it is instead of listing them one by one over here, you can also list your projects in the data validity, right? When you come here, you can use the function list, right? And then you just type your projects, project A, right? And then it's easier to just copy and then duplicate it and then copy this, paste this. You have B, you have C, you have D, and you have E. Both of them works, right? So I'm going to save this and I'm going to take these ones off. I'm going to click done. So that's my enum. Number of entries. I'm going to change the display name to number of vehicles. Right, these are the number of vehicles that are going to be used for the project. Okay, it's going to be a number. The maximum number is going to be 20. You can't go beyond 20, right? And the minimum is 1. It should always be 1. Okay, I'm going to click done. So I'll basically set this side up, right? I'm going to make the dates. I'm going to take off today over here. I don't want today to be there, so I want it to be blank. I'm going to save this. I'm going to click done. You can also put a validation over there to make sure that, okay, the date doesn't go beyond today. So you say date is always greater than or equal to today. So maybe someone doesn't make an entry for yesterday or something, but then maybe you don't need that. So I'll just put this over there just in case you want to set a validation. So they don't want maybe someone to set previous day something. Okay, so we have that, and now we go into the entry table. Okay, so in the entry table, we're going to set in some other data types. We're going to set in some data types. So come here. This is a ref, and it's going to be a ref to the general control. Click done. Right. So we have dates, which is dates. No, so we have dates, which is going to be calculated. So this one is going to be calculated by looking up the dates in the control table. Now, the way to look up a date in a related table is to use the ref, right? So you remember I made this column. I just made this column the ref in this table. So you bring the ref table, you bring a full stop, and then you say, okay, I want to select the date from the other table, and it's just automatically going to bring it in. Click that. Did I set this to initial value? No, I want it to be calculated. No, where are you? Dates, date. Yeah, so let's take this off. We want it to be calculated. We don't want it to be an initial value. There are two different things between initial value and app formula. So initial value is more like a suggestion. There you can still edit it, but app formula, you can't edit it. Once it's set in there, you can only see it, right? It's not editable. Okay, now project is also going to be the same thing. We come here and we're going to say app formula. So we call our ref GC. You bring a full stop, and then you want to select project from the control table, right? Save this as well. We'll click done. Okay, and then driver name is going to be a ref to the driver's table. Good. And then vehicle is also going to be a ref. It's already set as ref. Let me see. Yeah, to vehicles table. Good. Full quantity is going to be number. Minimum number we're going to have is 1. We're going to leave the maximum as blank. If you have any limits, you can set that as well. Return dates, I'm going to take off the initial formula, which gives us today's date, and I'm going to leave it as blank so that the user has to set it in. Okay, so we have something like this. Now let's see how these look together as individual tables. So come here to views. I'm going to create ref views. So the first one is going to be our control. Call this a general control. From the general control table. Okay, so for the general control, we're going to set it as a detail view, right? So detail view here. Good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come down here. First thing we're going to say is, okay, we don't want to show the ID. We have nothing to do with the ID. Good. Number of entries should show. Now these 3 columns should show, but they should be quick edits. Then you can quickly edit them like this. So we have something like this. So we have the date, we have our projects. I haven't saved it. When I save it, it's going to come, and we have our number of entries. You can just easily change this. It can't go below 1. You see that? And it can't go beyond 20, I should think. Yeah. Great. All right. So I'm going to change this to 1. Let's save this and let's see. Okay. So when I click on this, yeah, we have our drop down now. Great. So we're going to hide this edit action, so I don't forget that. Good. And then this delete action too, we're going to hide it. Okay, so that's for the control. We have that. It looks good. Next one is to bring in our, I'm going to create this. I'm going to call this the entries. So entry table. Good. This is going to be a table view. So you have something like this, right? Let me make this tabular or a tablet. So you see it's showing all the columns. You have name, ID, all these things. Good. I'm going to do some changes here. Let's come to manual setup. So I'm going to hide ID and GC ID, and then I'm going to move name below dates, right? And then project is going to fine. Vehicle is also fine. For quantity, return date, great. All right, good. Now there are a number of things we want to do. We want to only show the rows that have been selected in the general control, right? If it's not selected in the general control, basically don't show it. So let's first save this. So we're going to create a slice. So in the entry table, click a plus button here and create a slice. I'm going to call this so selected rows. And the formula is very simple. Click on this, create a new entry. So I'm going to say basically the ID. Remember the IDs are numbers, right? So I'm going to say the ID is less than or equal to, and then we have general control. So general control, and we say general control, and we say number of entries. Good. But you see, this is an entire column, right? So you can't compare one item to an entire list. That's what they're trying to say over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that give me, either you can use any, because you have just one entry. Any basically will randomly pick any number in a list, right? Or any value in a list, regardless of the position. But because we have only one item in the list, it's always going to give us the same item. So any works, or if you want something that is much more precise, you use index and you say, okay, I want the first value in this list. Index will pick an item in a list based on the position. Both of them work. Choose whichever you feel comfortable with. So I'm going to click save. We have that, right? So now this selected values rows will only show the rows we've selected from our this one, our general controls. But this will not work until we've actually set the view on that table, which is something that a lot of people seem to forget. You've created a slice, but you need to set the view to that slice. So I'm going to change it from not general control, entries. I'm going to change from entry table to selected rows, right? Good. I'm going to save this. So now let's see this. Hopefully it works. Come here to general control. Let's preview, showing preview 17. Let's change this to 3. Okay, and let's come to entries. I'll say show preview. And you see what? You have only 3 entries, right? So it works. So when you set this to 5 and you come here, entries, showing preview, you have 5 entries here. All right, so we are getting there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to combine them together in a new view called a dashboard view. So we'll come to primary navigation, create new, and I'm going to call this vehicle tracking entries. Okay, and this is going to be a dashboard view. Dashboard views do not have a data source. It's basically a combination of other views you've created. So you come here and then you're just going to add the views here. So click add. So the first one is our general control. Okay, I'm going to make it small. And the next one is our entry. Value entries, that can be large. Okay. In the mobile view, it doesn't really look as great as in the tabular, right? Or in the desktop view. The desktop view also looks good, but this view is more for a desktop view and a tablet view than a mobile view. That doesn't mean dashboard views do not work for mobile view. I actually use dashboard view a lot in my app. This side, when you come to use tabs in mobile view, when you check this, right, you have something like this. So you have general controls here and you have entries over here. But for this particular purpose, this doesn't work. But if you have maybe several views, you want to have them in tabs, so you can have one view here, one view here. Instead of having a lot of views down here, you can have just them as tabs over here, which is really cool, right? But for this purpose, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to save this. So I have something like this. So now what happens is I make my entries here. This isn't showing. I'll come back here. Good. All right. Sometimes you need to just make it a bit longer. We have our general control over here, and we have our entries here. Now, if I reduce this, real time, you should see this actually also what reducing as well. Good. Now, what we want to do is we want to create the vehicle table, right, which is going to be fed by these entries. And we're going to make a button that when you click, you come here, right? So let me just create this button. And it's going to say, okay, so vehicle tracking table, right, which is going to come from this table. Good. So it's just going to be a tabular view. But what I want to do is when I click the plus button, this button, then I open this view. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to come to vehicle tracking table. Currently this is a plus button. It just adds a new row, opens a form, but I don't want this form. Okay, so I'm going to hide this and I'm going to create my own action button. So I'm going to click plus, create, says, let me close this. So I've clicked on plus over here to create a new action. So go to dashboard, entries, something like this, right? And then you say go to another view within this app. Okay, so you can just do link to view. And then what's the name of our view? When you just bring double quotation, I really like this by AppSheet. Initially, you need to have to memorize all your views. Vehicle tracking entries. Here you are. I'm going to click save. I'm just going to make this also look like an add button. So plus over here for the action. And I'm going to make the display name add, right? So even though I call it this, in the app is going to look like that. So I come here and make this primary. See, add. When I click this, I come here. So let's look at this in a tabular form view. So when you come here and you click the plus, it opens this. So we'll make this a ref, by the way. Make this a ref so that when you click this, we open this, which is neat. All right, so we are done with the easy part. There are certain things you need to put in place so that you don't find yourself wanting. For instance, this particular buttons allows people to move from one detail view to another. So what we want to do is basically just hide it so we don't have problems later in the future. So we'll come here and we'll say under general control, slideshow mode, take it off. So we don't have any slideshow, people don't slide from one view to another. All right, so we have that in place. The next thing is you should, well, obviously this is a table. So once you click on an entry, it's going to open something like a detailed view of that entry. We don't want that as well. So in our dashboard view, where's our dashboard view? Here, it says interactive mode. So you should enable interactive mode, which allows you when you click on one entry, it shows you the detail in another view. Sounds like a slice, but I'm going to just enable this to prevent it from going to something else. It just remains here. All right, save. So now when I click on this, it doesn't open another entry. Okay, this keeps, I don't know if I need to make, I think I need to make this at least medium. Let's make it tall automatically. Let me save this so that it stops shrinking. Because when it sets to small, it has a predefined size for small. Okay, good. Now it stops shrinking. Okay, so now we have this in place. Now when you click on this, it sort of opens up and reduces, select our project, select our dates. Good. Now what we want to do is make this editable. Now how do we do that? So in the tabular view, when it comes to entries, we have an option down here that says enable quick edit. This has been in beta for a very long time. I'm wondering when they're going to make it completely like usable, not beta. All right, so now you have this add or this edit action over here. right? So when you click on this, now you can edit this. Okay, now you notice certain fields have been, oh, hold on, let me save this. Yeah, you notice certain fields have been grayed out, right? Those fields, you cannot make entries into them. Those are the fields that had our calculations in there. So for instance, this dates is supposed to pick the date from the general controls, and project is supposed to pick the project from the side. Now, this don't pop up until you start making entries into the particular field. So when I click here and I select a driver, then you see the date from this side picks, and then the project also picks, right? And then you can select the vehicle as well, and then you can put in the quantity of fuel, and then you can select the date, the return date. Okay, it's the same thing, so let me change this to a week, right? You can go on and do for other ones. So Marcus, his vehicle is going to be a bike. He just has 5 liters of fuel in there, and then he's going to return on the 14th. Why do I keep selecting unrealistic dates? On the 21st, last person, and then you're going to select truck, right? And then we're going to have fuel quantity of, let's say, 10 liters, and then I'm going to set this to 29th, right? Okay, so you see these 2 columns, they come from the general inputs because they run through for all of them, right? And the ones that are unique are over here. Now, probably you want to maybe kind of combine it with other entries. So you can change the date here, right? And then you can add, let's say, 2 more, right? And then these ones will pick those 2 records. So let's say Samuel. So you see Samuel picks this date, all the others are still the same. And then we have Priya. Priya also picks the new project date and the new project time. And then we can just set their vehicles and then their quantity. So this one will say be 2, this one will say 4, right? And then you set their return dates, 29th, and then this is maybe 28th, right? So this is very handy, it's very helpful. So once you are done, all you need to do is click save, and the easy part is done. Now, what we want to do is, we've currently entered entries, okay, into one table. Now we want to move these entries from this table, once it saves, to our destination table, which is this table. You get it? We want to move everything from that table to our destination table. And then what we want to also do is we want to clear. So currently when you click plus and you come back, you're going to have the old entries over here. So we want to also clear this entry so that we can reset it and then we can reuse it. So those are 2 things we want to do. To do this, we need action buttons. So we'll come here to actions, and then what we're going to say is, okay, let's first go to the entry table. Let's deal with the entry table. Where are you? Entry table over here. I'm going to click the plus button to create a new entry. Let me close this so we can see it well. The first thing I want to do is to move the data to the destination table. So move data to vehicle tracker table, right? So we're moving data from the entry table to another table. So add new rows to another table using values from this row. Good. What's the table? Vehicle tracking table. Okay, good. So ID in that table. So where are you? The IDs in this table is going to be unique, right? So over here, where are you? ID is going to be unique ID. Unique ID generates unique IDs for you. I'm going to save. And then the next thing is dates. Now dates is going to come from our entry table. So I'm going to use the dates column in that particular table. And then for the project column, I'm going to use the project field. So you see in the entry table, I'm taking the project column. Right, so everything you're entering here, or all the columns you're mentioning here, are coming from the entry table. Okay, good. Name of driver is going to be from the entry table, the name of the driver. We'll take this over here. I'm going to say, and then we're just going to do it for all of them. So vehicle is going to come from the vehicle column. The same thing. For quantity, entry table, return date is going to be return date, and then we're going to say recorded by. There's no such thing as recorded by over here, right? I didn't have to. I'm just going to put a formula over here. I'm just going to say for this one we're going to use user email, save, and recorded on. So recorded on, we're going to use a function now. We want to take both the dates and time. Good. But you see over here, well, it's text. The user type is set as text. So we have changed that in the main table. So we'll come here, come to vehicle intro tracker, and we'll set this to date and time. Okay, so we've done that. So we've set that completely. We're going to hide this action button. We don't want it to show. That's the first action button, so moving. The second action button we want to do is clearing. So create a new entry, and we're going to say clear entry table. Good. Now over here we have an action button that deletes. So delete this row. It just completely deletes. But then what we want to do is we want to avoid deleting because we are going to be using, where is it? We're going to be using the fields over here over and over again, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to rather clear the fields that are entries. So for instance, the driver name, the vehicle, fuel quantity, and return dates. Those are entries. So for the dates and the project, they are formulas. So we can't clear the formulas over there, else the next user will not have the ability to get that interaction. So we'll leave them as such. So we'll come here. So ID, I'm going to set this ID. I'm going to leave this ID as is. Instead of deleting, I'm just setting the values of. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the values of some columns in this row. So the first one, so ID, no, we're just going to touch that. So we just come to the driver name, set it to blank. Vehicle, we set also that one to blank. For quantity, we'll leave that as blank. And then we'll come to return date. That return date as well should be blank, right? And we'll hide this and we'll save. Okay, so basically what we want to do is that when we come to vehicle tracking and we click this add button, right, and when this action runs, so the driver's name will become blank, vehicle will become blank, these other two will become blank. These two will remain as is, right, because they are formulas. We don't want to clear the formulas. Okay, so let me save this as well. All right, so we have the second one done. The last one is going to be in the control section. So we want to clear the control as well. We want to do the exact same thing. So clear control. Clear control. So set some values here. ID is going to be the same. Date, I'm going to make date blank. I'm going to make project blank as well. And I'm going to make number of entries blank. So for number of entries, I'm not going to make it big. I'm just going to make it 1. Okay. And to come to think of it, I think it will be best if I make the number fields 0 instead of making them blank. So this, I'm going to make it 0. Right. I'm going to save this. Okay. So let's do that. Let me save this. Okay, so I've done general control. That clears the general control. So this one is over here. When I click this, you see this clears up nicely. Let me hide this as well. Why isn't this hiding? Okay, hide. Okay, so anyway, so we are now done with our action buttons. Now what we want to do is to make sure that this runs automatically, right? We don't need to click a button for all these action buttons to run. We want it to run automatically. So we are going to set in a bolt. This is actually one of the first times I'm actually doing a bolt in a video, but a bolt is an automation in AppSheet that runs after an event occurs. So you can run several processes after an event occurs on a table. I think there are about 3 or 4 main types of events. One of them is when an add, a delete, or an update happens on a table in AppSheet, or you can schedule an event. So at a certain time, when that time hits, the event will trigger and the process will start. Or you can actually call it, I think, via an email or something. Let's just look at that. Let's create our first bolt. So the first thing, like I was saying, for every bolt is an event. Let me name this bolt. Rename. So creating vehicle tracking entries. So to create the vehicle tracking entries, a certain event has to happen. So I'll click configure event, create new event. Good. So what's the name of your event? So I'll say new entries event. You can name it anything, right? Good. Now what's the source of your event? Where is it coming from? This is what I was trying to explain. So you have app database, we have scheduled, you have chat app, forms, and you have even Gmail, which is now in beta mode. So app is basically from the app when you have a change in either your tables, an update, or a delete, something like that. Scheduled is time-based, so you can schedule this monthly, weekly, hourly, but this is the paid plan version, deployed apps, or bi-weekly, right? And then we have, you can use Gmail. When you have received a certain Gmail, it will just trigger an event. We have chat app, we have forms, and we have what app database. AppSheet has a database. If you use that, you can trigger certain events. All right, we're going to use app because this is not a deployed app, and we're just going to say when an ad is made. Okay, that's the kind of data type we're looking for. You can put a condition. Even though an ad is made, we want an ad where maybe the date is equal to this, or where the project is equal to this. If it's not that, it's not going to run. Okay, so that's our event, as simple as it is. Then we're going to click add for process. So you're going to click new. Okay, now there are different types of processes. You can run a task. So there are various types of tasks. You can send an email, send a notification, an SMS, webhook. You can call a webhook. You can call a script. You can create a new file like a PDF. All those things can be done. You run a data action, which is what we're going to do. So we have some actions you want to call in. So when the event runs, these actions automatically run. We have a required branch on a condition. So you can put a condition here, and if it results to yes, you want to run certain things. If it results to no, you want to run another thing. Maybe send a notification that it didn't work. And then wait. So wait to put a condition, it has to wait. I've not really tested this, so I can't really speak to it. Call a process. So you could set a process in another boot and make it callable, set it to callable so that it can be called in this boot. So when this boot is running, it can actually run another process in another boot. And then we have return values, which is something I've not really tried and explored. Okay, so then now we just go back to running a data action. So we're going to create grouped actions. The first one is move data to vehicle tracker table, which is one. Second one is clear our entry table. But remember there was a third one, which was to clear our general controls, but that doesn't show over here. The reason why it doesn't show over here is very simple. It's because that action is not in this table, right? It's in a different table. So what we need to do is we need to find a smart way to trigger AppSheet to clear that table with an action in this table. So we'll come here and then we're going to create another action. I'm going to call this call controls action, controls clear action. Okay, so in the entry table, we want to execute an action on a set of rules. Now, which table do we want to execute this? So we're going to say on the general control, and then we're going to say, no, which columns do we want to clear? We want to clear all columns where the GC ID is equal to, the ID is equal to the GC ID. Okay, so we're going to say select, okay, So select general control ID, where the ID is equal to this row dot GCID. Now remember the GCID is basically reference to the ID column. So wherever the ID is equal to the GCID, we're going to call an action over there to run. So this is giving us a list, which is basically just one item anyway. And I'm going to say clear control. You see, now it gives me the option to what? Clear control. Okay, so this action button is what we're going to call in our boat. So I'm going to hide this. We need to hide this guy as well. Okay, so we'll come back here and then I'm going to say call controls clear action. You get it? Good. So everything is in place. So if we've done this right, ideally when we make a new entry and we save, it should clear. So going back here, and then let's first clear what we had over here. I'm going to just select everything here in the data and clear general controls. Yeah, this is fine. Where are you? Let's refresh this. Click here. Okay, click on this. Click on an add button. And then let's just start this. So I'm going to set this to date, set this to project B. Let's just start simple. Let's use 3 entry vehicles. So driver's name, Tanya, Marcos, and Samuel. Vehicles, this uses this vehicle, this uses that, and this uses this vehicle. Okay, quantity, so 3, 4, 5. Dates, let's set this to, this is 8, right? So let's set this to 15th, let's set this to 22nd, and let's set this to 20th. All right, so the moment of truth, we just click save, and let's see what happens. So first, these 3 have to sync in, and let's see. Okay, let's see if at least it flowed in. No, it didn't flow in. Let's close this, it didn't come. Okay, let's try and investigate why. So I'm going to click on this. Now, one thing you can do after creating your boats to make sure they are working is to come here, click on test, right? And then you can run a test to see if this is actually working. So you click execute. Okay, it's going to run this test and then you're going to see. Okay, success is working. Let's run this as well. Success. So what are we missing? What are we missing? Country. Okay, once we click that, you see run. The first one is gone. 2 is there. Am I missing something? Okay. Could it be that these are updates and not edits? Not ads. Yes. Remember, we set this to ads, but the columns are already predefined, right? So it's not actually ads, it's updates. We're not adding new entries, we're updating this. So that's why it didn't work. So updates is what is supposed to be the right thing. So I'm going to click save. I'm going to come here. I'm going to clear this. Hopefully this time it works. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's resync this. Okay, so we're going to set this to C. Let's make this just 2 rows and then edit this. So Tyha, this guy. Oh, I didn't set the dates. You have to cancel this. All right, so let's set the dates to set. Great. I even forgot about this condition. Remember, we put a condition that if it's not, what's the word? If the date is not today, it should give you an error, right? So I'm just going to change this to beyond today. And I'm just going to edit this. I'm going to say, okay, driver's name is Marcos, tire, and the vehicle is going to be this vehicle, that vehicle, and then fuel, 4 and 6. And then I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put this here. and then let's save and see. Okay, it's taking a while to sync. It's syncing. Worked. Fantastic. So let's come back here, and then you have your entries over here, right? These were previous entries I was testing, so you have these entries over here nicely. When you click your add button, you can add more entries, right? So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a very handy trick you can add to make your app look super. And like I said, this looks better in the tablet view and the desktop view. Let me just show you the desktop view. So over here, when you click on add, you have it this way, right? It looks neat over here, but in the mobile view, not as much. So probably you should consider which app you use this for. So thank you for joining me for this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys.